Let me close out these others. Hold on.
Okay, let me pray then. Father God, we're so grateful to be called your daughters, grateful for these upcoming seasons of gratitude and thanksgiving and celebrating your birth and your life and your death and eternal life, the opportunity to accept you as Savior and Lord. I love the holidays, Lord, but they also come fraught with lots of up and down emotions, and we sort of get off of our groove. And so I would just pray that these holidays for all of our NACWE members would be blessed, would be restful, would be full of fellowship and family and friends, and full of reminders of who you are. That people would be pointed again and again and again toward you, Christ the Redeemer, and all that you have done for us. I pray for NACWE members, Lord, for an ability to sort of, as we're planning out the whole 2018, to sort of find out what people need and want, and to meet those needs, to figure out best times and best practices. Lord, we just want to help people grow their businesses and ministries in ways that bring you glory and honor, and we ask for the equipping to do just that. I pray for every NACWE member and the endeavors, services, programs, and products that she has going on, and pray the same, that they would bring you glory, Lord, that you would be pleased with us as your daughters, as your servants, as your vessels. I just pray for Lou today, and then Lou again, and Lou and Elena, as they bring us more about culture this month. It's a fascinating concept for me, one that is really evolving for me. And so I would just pray that there would be some takeaways and nuggets that would enhance the way we do what we do for you, and that you would bless this hour and the hour to come for everyone involved. And we ask these things in Christ's name. Amen. Okay. Hey, Kim. Kimberly, we just lost your video.
Hi, guys.
We can't see you, Kim.
All right.
Do you want to be seen?
She's hiding.
Okay, so
but that's okay. I'm going to pop up my side.
She knows how to pop back in and out, and when she needs to. All right, let's go. You're ready. I'm ready for you. I will say that I have learned more from you about culture than probably from anybody. And you've led me to some really great resources and books, and I talked about some of those last week. I have enjoyed thoroughly traveling with you and laughed my head off, and that's why I asked you if I could use your terminology. I'm sure they'll hear it from you too about crunchy culture, because the minute you said it, I died laughing, and then I thought, if our culture is crunchy, it's really not a laughing matter, and it is something that needs our attention. So Lou, I appreciate your perspectives, your humor, your expertise so much, and you're on. You may go.
Okay, I'm gonna take this down a little bit. Okay, let me go full screen here. I thought Gingham would be happy on this nice fall day. I'm still such an entrepreneur, I don't even have my own PowerPoint templates yet, but I will. That's on my to-do list now. But I thought Gingham was nice, happy. When you think of culture, it's things that grow, it's full of life, it's I'm gonna snooze this thing. It's trying to shut down my computer. Hold on, we're not doing that. Okay, snooze. Okay, good. So when we were talking about the month of November and talking about culture again, there's so many angles you can approach culture. And as a new entrepreneur, I realized, most of my life I've walked into an existing culture. I've walked into another company, I've walked into another church, I've walked into another city or country, and I've just merged into something. And so as an entrepreneur, I realized that I am actually laying the foundation for a culture. So I wanted to talk, and then I look at the ladies in NACWE, for example, and a lot of them are solo entrepreneurs, not necessarily with big giant teams and things. They may have people they partner with to do certain things. So in a sense, there is a team, but at the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, you set the culture from the beginning. And so what does that look like? So when you started your business, you took a lot of time to make a business plan, to set a strategy, to really dream and think through what do you want to build and how are you going to get there. You spent a lot of time on finance and how are you going to finance this, how are you going to make money, how are you going to brand yourself, and then what are the array of products and services that you're going to provide. But did you take any time to consider your culture? No, it's like the last thing on the list, right? Because we're just like, I'm me, let's go. And we don't really think about, how much thinking about this and setting the tone and deciding and determining your culture actually influences what your offerings are, how you provide them, what you will do and what you won't do, what you want to do and what you hadn't considered doing. Because it's sort of one of these after effects, and culture is a very organic thing that merges. But if you can think about it on the front side and spend just as much time thinking about the culture you want to create and the company you want to become from a cultural perspective, that will vastly actually enhance the culture you become, because you've thought it through. You don't wind up in the middle of it going, oh my gosh, this is not what I wanted. This is not how I wanted this to go. Because so many times we just hit the ground running, the horses are out the gate, and we didn't think about, I don't want to do business like this, or I don't like who I am when I act like this, or why don't I have the right people in my that I'm working with, because you haven't thought through, who do you want to hire, who do you want to work with. Yeah, there's a lot of layers to it. And so I wanted to throw it out to you guys. You can either answer in the chat box or unmute yourself. But all of you, so we've got Kimberly, we've got Barb, we've got Kim, we've got Karen. And when you started your businesses, I don't know how long ago, did you ever, when was the point that you started thinking culture, or did you? I'll let you answer it in the chat box, or you can unmute.
I'll answer, Lou.
Okay.
Just because I have a bad example, and now I'm trying to be a better example of that. And because when I started my business back 10 years ago in Evansville, I really didn't think through fully what was most important to me, the questions you had in the culture. So I just started doing events. I just did what I do, and that's gather women, create energy. And I ended up with some events that were like more of a girls' night out, and I was attracting, and I'm sitting here trying to speak life into women's lives in a setting where they're there for cosmopolitans and, girls' night out. And so anyway, I'm now at this new place, and I did 2 retreats a year, but it was way too many events that were not around what God put me on earth to do. So now I'm asking that question first and foremost before. And I'm about to do an event at my house, and I'm thinking through that, like, will I even have any alcohol at it? Because people expect it. It's an evening event. But I'm asking culturally and
Oh, we lost her. We lost her voice. Oh, here she is. Go ahead.
I got a phone call. I'm trying to ask myself, where do I see my business 5 years from now? Where does God want my business to be? And where, as a recovering alcoholic, I'm pretty sure it's not cosmopolitan involved. And I have nothing against that. It's just not, and I love Girls Night Out. I just don't know that I'm supposed to be creating those kinds of things in the world.
Right. That's a good, That's a good question. So that's kind of one of those examples of when you think culturally, is this who I want to be? Is this what I want to be? Is that the whole picture? And it really that's a great example, Kimberly. Barb, you had unmuted yourself. Do you want to say anything?
Sure. Actually, a couple things. One, just about the whole like tagging it as a culture, company culture, is that, to be honest with you, last year, well, no, take it back. In 2015, when I redid my website and Elena helped me and Diane was speaking into my life, and I was like, really? Like there should be some things, lined up about that. And so I did. And actually people have been attracted to me because of what I had on my website and said, this is who I was. And so, I mean, I was living it, walking it, but never really identified that that's what it was. So, like when editing clients came to me, I had like 3 in a row that were like on the opposite track of who I was and who I was as a believer, that I couldn't even touch them because well, I shouldn't say that. It wasn't an area where I was supposed to be walking. And so I had to say no to them because it violated who I was in my belief system. And so, I think sometimes, Lou, it could be like it's there, but we don't even realize that it is what it is. And so thank you for all that you bring to it. And then, really, as I came into NACWE, that was one of the things that I learned from Diane. And then that Elena Shin was like, you need to do this for your website. So anyway, so thankful for women like that.
And I think, to your point, it's a lot of times when you do take the minute to write it down, it's there because it's sort of our internal marching orders. It's how we're wired. It's what's important to us. So we all have values that we live by. People could study you and tell you what your values are. You may not say, really, that's a value, but but when you sit down and you think about it, this is what I value. This is how I want to behave. This is what I want to bring. And once you kind of said that out loud, it creates a framework. And you start to recognize when you've crossed one of those lines and you've kind of gone out of the guardrail a little bit. And you have to go, okay, let's get back in because I'm not behaving this way, or I'm not, people that clients that I'm working with don't really fit that, and I'm not able to change that. So they do become guardrails, and exactly what you say. But it's when you give yourself that thought to consider who do I want to be culturally, it helps, right? And it is attractive. I wrote in the newsletter, I don't know if you guys read it this month, in the education newsletter, the 3 values every entrepreneur should have. And this was just my personal opinion. All of it's my opinion. It's not expertise, but the first one was grit. The second was excellence. And the third was trust. And grit is just about that, like holding on to the stick, not letting go of the stick, and keeping chomped on it till you get it, And then excellence was a value of just impeccable performance, impeccable product, or impeccable interactions in every detail. And then trust was one that's like, like I said, it's kind of give and take. You trust, but you're trusted. And so those were values that I thought, when I think of what it takes to be an entrepreneur, you have to have those 3. That doesn't mean those are your 3, but that was sort of kind of a baseline. And I think there's iterations of those 3. But when I think of the guardrail, mine is like, is this excellence or is this mediocrity? Like, am I just slapping this together, or are they really good questions? So I'll go on to the next slide.
I know you don't want to spend a whole lot of time, but I mean, this is so important. So I would have never, until I met you and we really started the conversation, said to you, oh my goodness, the culture at this place that I'm working is really good, or that. I wouldn't have defined it as culture. I didn't understand it as culture. But I do know that, for example, Rhema Counseling Associates, I was totally designed around Christian Counseling Associates, which was the first kind of group practice that I worked in. And really what I know now is I walked away from there every day thinking, I love this culture. When it's my turn, I'm going to recreate this culture. And in many ways, I think, without realizing maybe totally that I was creating culture. I was creating culture. So, I mean, I wrote down what did you said, what's most important for you? And I wrote down really what I noticed and think I brought from CCA to RCA is unity, communication, team, collaboration, education. There's probably more, and they're probably different for each hat that I wear, but it would be a good idea for me, I think, to sit down and streamline them, and I love that.
Yeah.
Opens up
Yeah.
a new world.
It's just one of those, we just don't make the time. We make time for everything else, but really this sets the tone for everything. So if you go to the next slide is exactly why. So we spend a lot of time on your why. We have to spend a lot of time on, what's your why? What's the why of your business? What's your purpose? And we spend a lot of time on what are we going to offer? What's the package going to be? What's the, deliverable? What? But to me, culture determines the how. And culture is how we do it all. It's the energy with which we do it. It's how we behave when we're doing it, those deliverables. And we're living that why. It's our, kind of the language. But I really think it's the essence. And my husband always says, the spirit with which things are done really changes everything. When you work with someone, or you have a client, or you have I just got off of a 2-week whirlwind conferenceville, but the energy that was so positive with 98% of the people, and the 2% that it wasn't, I looked at it and said, it's all about that. It's all about the culture. It's all about that essence. These people don't get it, and they don't live it, and they don't, and it can poison. It starts to poison at 98%. All these 98% positive experience are completely ruined by 2%. And that's crazy, because this 98 should be stronger, but it's not, because 2% can kill it. And so I feel like when the whole team, when everyone is aligned around, and the leader is showing, this is how we roll, this is how we behave here, this is how we act, this is our culture, it permeates everything. And when the leader doesn't permeate, the leader doesn't demonstrate or exemplify what a good culture is, how it can fall apart. It was kind of mine, and I was looking from the outside in, because I'm a consultant, right? And so you just watch, and it's very interesting stepping out and watching and going, wow. But and the more you really think through culture, and the more you think through your culture, how you do things, your values are going to impact how you behave, right? They're going to impact what's important to you. It's also going to impact how your clients see you, or people that you work with, like partners. You know what I mean? We have, like, you've got, your web designer and your editors, and you've got your education coordinators, and all of these people that can say, how does this all work together? How do we work together? Culture does determine that how. It changes the energy. So, like I said in the beginning, so culture for the solo entrepreneur. There are, as a one-man show like me, I have to think through, what are my cultural expressions? What's the personality of my brand? What's the personality of my character, of me? What's my character? What does that show about my culture that I want to embed in my brand? What's the language I need to use in my brand? And what are the behaviors that I need to have for my brand that show my cultural expression? So there was a great quote from Henry Cloud, and he said, patterns become behaviors, behaviors become culture, culture becomes DNA, and DNA becomes identity. And all of those things feed into how the world sees us, how clients see you, how potential clients see you, how partners see you, how, and it was one of those quotes that just hit me like a rock, because I've heard a lot of people have used this, behaviors become culture, but they never go all the way to identity. And that's what you're going to be known for. How you're going to be on the street. When you're walking down the street, they'll recognize you by the culture with which you carry yourself. So when you think about patterns, well, I put this quote in here: the unexamined life is not worth living. If you think about it, we have to examine ourselves. We do have to reflect on ourselves. We have to give ourselves a little bit of space once a month, once a week, and say, who am I? How am I behaving? What are some of the patterns that I need to change? What are some of the behaviors I need to change that align with my values? Because I can say all day in this great lofty vision that this is important to me, but I don't act like it. It's the plaque on the wall thing, right? It's not the word on the street. So I wanted to ask just just to take like 2 minutes to reflect, if you were really honest, what in your brand or your entrepreneurship, what is your culture today, right now? Good and bad. You can say the good and bad. You don't have to share it all, but good and bad that you would want to change because you're like, this isn't working, or this is great. I need to do more of this. So give yourself 2 minutes, and I'm going to set my timer. You'll be so proud of me. 2 minutes. Okay. Does anyone want to share anything, or do you want to write it in the chat box?
I'll share, Lou.
Okay.
So I said, culturally, I feel like I'm empowering. I show possibilities, challenging, uniting, and transforming. I'm a little silly and a little bit cray-cray, which is part of my personality, but sometimes I feel like it might take away from my professionalism. And I would like to speak up more about certain things, but I fear internet trolls, and some of those trolls are in my family.
Yeah.
So that's what I wrote.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Anyone else?
And FYI, I keep turning my video off because I'm setting my phone down so I can take notes.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not being rude.
We're just glad you're here. This was hard
Yeah.
for me, but I wrote down, I think the culture I create around my entities is gracious and merciful, collaborative, educative. I don't know if that's a word, but one of my goals is to learn
We'll
more.
make it one.
Yeah, it is now. Inclusive, because I have a tendency, even to a fault, sometimes to just include everybody and everything. But I also found areas where I think, and we knew that once I finished the dissertation, I could kind of gear up a little bit better. And that's still right around the corner here. But I would like to see myself be more attentive, more communicative, building more unity. And my new word for 2018 is going to be implement. I feel like there are lots of times that I'll, start a program and not really finish it, or I learned a lot, but I didn't put some things into practice. And so I think I'd like my culture to be one where everybody, sees that, making it happen, taking next steps, that sort of thing. This was hard. I'm going to put on my calendar.
It's not easy.
Yeah, I'm going to put on my calendar once a month, do a culture evaluation. It was good.
Yeah. Anyone else? Well, it's funny because I wrote, and I wrote this presentation, people, and I still had trouble doing this exercise because I really, I'm tough on myself, and I feel like, from a cultural perspective, I feel like it's about empowerment, and it's about showing people something that they can't see and teaching them how to see it. That's really kind of a very important value of mine, is to be able to unveil things and reveal things to people. But I'm so low on detail, and I'm so distracted, that if someone were watching me and someone were giving me my own cultural evaluation, they would say, this is, you don't focus, and then like that would be the if they were giving me 3 pluses and an X, the X would be that focus piece. But I think asking this question, doing this evaluation, is important for you to say, these are the things that distract clients from working with you, and if I can get this under control, or I know I'm going to be distracted, I've got to be able to channel this energy a different way. It's not wrong. It means that my mind is somewhere else, and why is my mind somewhere else right now? And that's just learning to manage yourself, right? But they are things, because like Barb said in the beginning, there are things that you put out there that attract people to you. There's also things that you put out there that just detract people from you. Is that a word? Detraction, I guess. So I'm sure I said it in the wrong. Barb, don't get on to me. It's my bad grammar today. So, okay, that was one.
The fascinating thing
Yeah.
is you do that culture evaluation for yourself, and I'm, sitting here thinking, really, you don't feel like you're focused. You don't feel like you're into detail. You don't feel, we don't always see the same thing. So I think what you said a little earlier is ask somebody, because someone with a different perspective, which is going to be also hard to do, because it means you're going to have to hear the good and the bad, like you said, but areas for improvement, things like that. I absolutely love that. I don't know if you're able to watch the chat room, but Kimberly said, I would totally fire myself if she did a culture evaluation. She would totally fire herself. We are hard on ourselves than other people are.
We're hard on ourselves. But you're right, there's also a huge amount of grace that people give us, because they're waiting for it. I think it's just over time you have to recognize what are my patterns, right? So there's one thing that's like, if it's just a one-off, but what are those patterns? Because those patterns change your ultimate behavior over time. And then that changes your identity, and you become known as this or this, and so I think just know, but we are hard on our stuff. We are hard on ourselves. So let's see. So that was today. Now the question to you is, well, what do you want it to become? What do you want your culture to become? Like maybe it's great now, but you're like, for the next phase, it needs to be this. These are the things I need to be focused on. Because there's a piece about, like Kimberly, what you said, you're empowering women. And I don't remember all the words you said, but it was basically, I felt like it was very inspiring and empowering to women. But what are some values you need to adopt for yourself that will help empower them even more? That would be an example of kind of this question. What do you want your culture to become? Because there's something we have to do, we need to adopt that will take us to the next level. So I'm going to give us 1 minute this time, not 2, if that's okay, just so we have a little time in the end to chat. So I'll do 1 minute and then write down, what do you want your culture to become from where it is today? Okay, that's a minute. That was a fast minute. Okay, any surprises or any changes? To be fair, 1 minute is not really a lot, but you can go back and do this. I'll give you homework at the end. Anybody want to share?
I think I need to spend more time on this for sure. But I also found myself going right back to the NACWE mission, which was, to connect, create, collaborate in community. How do I enhance those even more? I don't know if this was easier to do because it's a projection and no one's like looking over your shoulder forcing you to live up to it, but that's what I came up with for that.
Kimberly, what you got?
Culturally, I need to adopt the following to become even more empowering is I need to become consistent and rock solid and have regular business hours, because I can get a lot done in a short, I work in spurts. However, organizationally, you just can't do that. I have to have a little bit more dependability, be a little bit more solid and consistent.
Okay, good. Mine is kind of along those lines. I need to become trusted. I guess more solidly trusted. That means deliver on time, impeccably. Innovative. I think I need to where I think people think I'm already innovative and they come to me for innovation, but I need to really have a way that the innovation is really impeccably displayed. And it's not just, oh, she just came up with this idea real fast. She's clever, she's creative, right? But not innovative. Innovative goes a little further. And then I along your lines, Kimberly, I said structured. I really need structure. and it's a lifelong quest for me. But I think that it gives you that, it goes into the trust a little bit, to where for yourself, because I think we can beat ourselves up a lot too as entrepreneurs. And so when we feel like we're kind of off the rails on some of this, when we have structure and we're in it, we feel a lot more comfortable with ourselves, and then our work is better. So it's interesting how all this works. Anybody else want to add before I move on? Barb?
Yeah, for me, it was a shift, not so much in the detail, but a perception maybe for myself and my business that I would be known as a place of transformation, that I would be like a destination, like Motel 6, where we keep the light on for you. So that as people want to have, like for my editing, and already in some places it is like that, like if you want to have a person that does this and sows this into your life and prays for you and your project, and you know that the outcome is excellence and those sort of things, then you know what, there's only one editor for you, and that's Barb Hollis. So just to have that, but I think it starts with us, because sometimes we feel like, I know I will admit this, that I feel like I'm in a crap of, there are many, many editors out there. And, you know, I have like this little place, but I think God has a place for us that is bigger than we realize. And not from our ego standpoint, but that we don't choose to step into that because we don't think we're worthy of it. So, so it's a shift, I think I talked about in the earlier one about growth in the business, but then also that growth in me then that is like the candle in my clients as well. So growth for them.
Yeah. And if you think about growth, and growth can be a value because it's about expansion, right? It's expanding. And so you have to think, what do I need to put into place? What are the behaviors, the practices, the patterns that I got to put in place so that all of these values that we talked about will fit, will grow. So there you go. There's my next question. What patterns and behaviors do you need to adopt to change your company culture? So it's one thing to say, I want to be this and I want to do this, but what are the actual patterns and behaviors you need to adopt to make that happen? So I'm going to give us one more minute to write down a few things on just patterns, because patterns are just every day, you know, another step, right? So 1 minute. Okay. Okay, all right, stop. Technical difficulties. Okay. I need some patterns for non-technical difficulties. That's what I need. Okay. So what did you come up with? Kim, I haven't heard from you today. Come on, jump up in there. Oh, you're muted. Hold on. Wait, I can't unmute you.
I got it.
Okay.
I was on the phone driving. So anyway, good to be here and good to be listening in. First and foremost, it goes with what I think Kimberly and you both said, time blocking, more structure, but specifically with time for working on the foundational things of business, not just the stuff that needs to be done, but really this, you know, we talked about during October, of course, the money stuff, but I don't mean just making the money, but this foundational stuff of culture, the strategy stuff that Karen talks about. So the foundational stuff, putting that in the time blocking, not just letting it fall by the wayside.
Good. Anyone else? Any new patterns? No. Kimberly?
For me, a few things I jotted down is stop seeking information and knowledge, consistent marketing, consistent outreach to referral partners, Pomodoro, and I get involved in way too many things, and I spread myself a little thin, so it makes me not be able to do those things consistently because, like you said earlier, I'm a little bit tough on myself because I do get things done, so you're constantly being asked to do things. And I have to learn that as I teach clients, no is a complete sentence.
No, period. Yeah, that's good. Anybody else? I think for me, I put, so I had those to become trusted, innovative, and structured. For me, the patterns were really, and behaviors really were, number one, trust myself. Because I can go out and think I'm not the expert on it, or I don't know, and I need to go research, I need to learn more about it, instead of just saying, what do I know today? And what do I offer today? And I think a lot of our answers are already here. We just don't give ourselves the credit for it, and we don't give ourselves the credentials that we deserve with the knowledge and experience we have. And so I think for me, some of the behaviors would be stop trying to hoard more information and just share and think what I already know. Write down, what do I already think about this? What do I already know about this? And is that enough to help my client? If I need to go get something else, but we just immediately go, I need to go research this. Like this presentation, I didn't open one website, I didn't open one book. I just thought, what do I want to ask people? What's the journey I want to take people on with this particular presentation, these next 3 weeks, for example. And then for innovative, think through not just creative, not just on the fly, not just under pressure. Because under pressure, I can come up with like a million fabulous ideas. But if I give myself the space and the time to just sit and think and be innovative and think it all the way through, that's a pattern I need to create. I need to create patterns of time. So the structure, the time blocking, I think we don't give ourselves that. We give time blocks to other stuff that isn't lucrative. So that would be my takeaway. So the next question is, how would, by changing and becoming this next version of your culture, impact your organization and performance? Would it, how would that impact would you grow? Would you have people working for you? Would your performance be better? What do you think changing your values or adopting new values or behaviors and patterns, how do you think those would change for you? I'm not going to give us a timer on that one, but anyone's free to jump in or in the chat box.
I'm going to share an example that's not my own. I was at a conference this weekend that, Lou, you would have absolutely loved. Anyway, one of the stories that just keeps popping up in my head over and over again was this flower shop, and just a couple of small tweaks that they did that it changed their whole environment, but it also changed their revenue. And that was an email thanking a person when they placed an order for flowers. I mean, just a simple email. That was the first start of it. But then the person who received the flowers, there was also like a confirmation email, it's been delivered. They tell the person who ordered the flowers, but they also then sent a coupon to the person who ordered the flowers and the person who received the flowers. I mean, just these little bitty things that touch point and connecting with those customers, and their revenue, like in 6 months time, like quadrupled. And that was the only change they had made.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
just some of those really
Tiny
small
gestures.
cultural things.
Right.
Yes.
It's perfect. You're setting me up for the rest of my presentation beautifully. I didn't even pay her for that. Anyone else? Yeah. I think the Susan's is I think that's when you do that cultural, evaluation, ask these questions and go just a little further, not just what are my values, what do they need to become, what are the patterns and behaviors we probably need to have for us to get there, and what change do we expect to see? These are really good questions to just kind of reevaluate on a quarterly basis or a biannual basis, to kind of think through where you want to be and where you want to get going. A lot of the values will stay the same, but there's going to be nuances of activities around them and behaviors around them that you need to amplify, or that you need to tone down, or you need to put things in check. So to tell you a story. Oh my gosh. Everybody loves story time. I'll go fast. Look at this beautiful boat, okay? So beautiful Mediterranean Sea. I figured it's cold, gray, gloomy in Dallas. I don't know what it's like where you guys are, but it's cold. And I was thinking about this morning, an entrepreneur that I knew once. And this was years ago, 1996. And I lived in the south of France, and we lived in Nice. And Nice has an amazing market. They have an amazing outdoor flower market and olive market, vegetable fruit market, and they have a really cool fish market. And of course, everyone likes to go to the floral market and the vegetable market the best because it's beautiful. It smells great. The fish market doesn't smell as good, but it's a fascinating thing to go to, and you see these women and men that work there. And I met a lady who worked there, and she was a fisherwoman. Her husband was a fisherman, and they had this little business. Her husband passed away, and she had to maintain this business. And she would get up very early every morning and go get on her boat and ride out with her little nets, or like 3 o'clock in the morning. That's like early. And with her nets, and catch her fish and bring it back and bring them to the market. This was like her life. And I would see her every now and then. I'd see her in different places around town. And it was just one of those people, like, you just keep running into this woman. Why do I keep running into this lady? And I would just watch her interactions, and who she was, her character, her face, and in the market, how she acted. So her stall was impeccable, set it beautifully. Every detail, her ice was beautiful. The way that she stored everything was like really orderly and perfect. But she was hardened. She had a life out in the sun, so she had the rough, hard skin that you imagine of a fisherwoman. But she had this gentleness that was just beautiful for someone that was like so rigid and strict about the way things had to look, this impeccable stand, but then this gentle, kind nature. She was probably the most popular woman that worked in the market, and everyone went to her, and she always gave people a different recipe. Every time I would see her, she had a different recipe to share. It was the same fish, it was just different recipes. Try it with this. She'd hand you a bouquet of herbs to use. I remember once she gave a big bouquet of dill, and she said, slice it under the skin, and you just put all the dill under the skin, and then you grill it, and it's with lemon. And I was just like, who is this woman, you know? And I remember watching her. And so when I was trying to think of, you know, an entrepreneur, a one-person show who exemplified who their culture was, I thought of this woman, this Fisher woman. She didn't have a team. She didn't have a big business. She didn't have, you know, the big conglomerate. And it was one person who had a reputation in this town. And this is a huge city with tourists, and yet this woman was everywhere. And you saw her and she knew everyone. And she was old. She was like 65, 67 years old. I don't know how she did all of this. I mean, I think when I think back, what she had was she just had poise. She had grace. She had generosity. She had kindness. She had standards. She had excellence. She never was frenzied. She never was chaotic. She never looked worried. She never looked mad. And I think about like what her culture, this woman's culture of her, the culture of this one woman's business was so powerful. And I thought, that's who I want to be. I don't want to be frenetic, crazy Lou. I want to be that Fisher woman that, yeah, got up at 3 a.m. and goes and sells fish until 12. Then she goes home and walks around town, walks through this beautiful city, has coffee, everyone knows her. What a life. What a life. When I think about what the businesses we want to create as entrepreneurs, that's what we want, isn't it? We want to have like a life that's full of integrity and character, but also we don't want to be worked to the bone. We don't want to be dead by the end of the night. We want to be able to rise at 3 a.m. and go push your boat out. I mean, can you imagine at 67 years old pushing a boat out, hauling nets up? No, but she did it. She was a tiny little lady, strong as a horse, you know. So it gave me an inspiration of just when I think about patterns and behaviors, culture, who is that woman? That was a powerful visual. I don't remember her name. I feel like it was Miriam, but I don't remember. But as I tell you this story, does that change anything about, you know, I want you to think about yourself and think about your business, your life, your flow, your everyday energy. Can you find that fisherwoman inside you? And what has to change so that you do? Give yourself a minute to think. What would you change to become a fisherwoman like that? So wait, sorry. So what did you write anything down? Anything? What you got, Karen? Nodding.
I think I am inspired to, you know, I can use the dissertation as an excuse for the rest of my life, and it's just not going to fly, let's face it. But I think the way that little extra thing that she did, the spices, the instruction, she looked her client probably in the eye, you know, they had a little conversation. They went home and they enjoyed their meal. Reminds me of when I first came into NACWI. I think the lady's name was Pam Holland. She did an entire presentation for us on just special touch, how you reach out and touch that client just to, you know, just go the extra mile, even if it's not a full mile, you know, just do something. And she gave a lot of real specific examples. So recently I worked with, in a coaching session with a NACWI member, and she sent me cookies in the mail. And I thanked her on Facebook in front of everyone, but she didn't see it. So I was mortified that later she had to say to me, "Did you get these cookies?" And I had to say, "Oh yes, I thought you know, I thought you saw it. And so, I mean, I'll never do it that way again. I'll make sure to pick up the phone and put a note in the mail and various things. We don't do that anymore. We don't put notes in the mail so much anymore. We don't send people cookies anymore. So I think my inspiration from the story, and I'd written in the chat room earlier, reach out and touch someone. I think that was from the old telephone commercial. You know, we don't even have telephones like that anymore, but reach out and touch someone and engage people the way that I would want to be engaged. I think it'll be interesting to see, you know, I'll just be praying for creative ways to do that. But I think that's what I'm taking away from that story is just, it doesn't take much. All she did was hand you a little bag of spices and encourage you.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No. So basically, this woman had a brand. You know, this woman had a reputation. She was known in this entire region. This woman was famous. People went to her stand in the marketplace. I mean, there were others, and she gave them a good value. It wasn't that she was, you know, offering the lowest price or the highest price. It was just, there was something about doing business with this woman that made it the best experience overall. And it just shows you how far your brand can reach when you've got that reputation and people can see your culture and they can see what's important to you and how you behave and all those things that exemplify what your culture is. And then I had asked the question, how long did that reputation linger after she left? You're still talking about her. I lived there in 1996. That was over 20 years ago. I'm still talking about this woman. I've never forgotten her face. I can still see her dress. I still see her stand. I still see her walk. And I thought, this is someone to revere. And that is like, when you talk about someone's character and culture, it's impressive that she had this reputation. I wonder if she's still alive. I have to go back. So anyway, that's an example of how culture can impact reputation and success. So I'm going to give you homework. Your homework is, I want you to really dive a little deeper into those questions we asked, which were values. You know, what are some of the values you have today? And really be honest. And what are the values you need for tomorrow? And then what are those practices and behaviors you need to implement and adopt to take it to the next level? And then I just want to thank you. I have a little special for any NACWI members that want to chat with me for an hour to do a like a culture consultation about, you know, what are your values, what are the principles that you carry, and then what are the practices you need. I know a lot of this is hard. It's hard to stay in the line of value when we start to go into the, here's what I do, here's what I offer. And I'm like, no, bring it back here. Bring it back to the values. And so I'm good at kind of listening to you, but then like, okay, let's take it back to this thing, because we want to jump into what we're going to do, and we need to stick over here in the how we're going to do it, and that's the values piece. Not how in the steps, but how in the spirit, right? So you can reach me at lou@loukraltchev.com or here on Facebook in the NACA group, or you know how to reach me. So anything else? Any questions?
Just
I went over, I'm sorry.
I know, I'm thinking, I looked at the clock and thought, well, we didn't, but we did. I mean, where did the time go? And I think it's because it's challenging. It's not necessarily new, but it's new to me still. I mean, I think I've been talking about culture with you for a year in November, a year now, and I still have so much to learn, so I really appreciate it. If you will post some, I don't know, could you post some things in the NACWI membership group about where you're reading about culture? I know you didn't put a lot of that in here today, and it wasn't necessary, but I'm still just so
where I'm what?
Where you're reading and learning about culture.
Okay. Yeah.
So I know I mentioned last week you and Hugh Halter and Darren Martin and the guys who wrote The One Thing, Keller. No, I didn't talk about The One Thing. I talked about the Disney leak that Mr.
yeah,
Cockrell with the Disney emphases. And this week I'm reading The One Thing, but it would be really helpful, and I so appreciate it. See you next week with Elena, right?
No, in 2 weeks with Elena.
Okay, 2 weeks with Elena.
Next week, I'm just talking about getting culture. So we're going to dive a little deeper into some of this stuff. Language. We're going to dive deeper next week. And I know it's Thanksgiving, so, week, but hopefully everyone can at least pop it for a little while.
If it was
it's Tuesday,
Thursday,
not Wednesday.
If it was Thursday, we could cancel it, or whatever. So.
Yeah.
And Barb, would you like to pray us out? Or are you having to run?
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay.
Always time to pray. So, dear Lord, thank you for this time together. Thank you, Father, for the culture that you create not only in our businesses, but in our lives, in every area of our lives. I thank you, Father, for Lou and the things that she has taught us today, the places she has challenged us. And I just pray, Father, for those seeds that were planted today, Father, that they would bear much fruit. In your Son's name we pray, amen.
Amen. Bye, ladies.
Thank you,
Love
guys.
you guys.
Bye.
Bye.